I wanna fly high up to the sky. I'm living in the mountains. Everybody know the soil so fertile. If a man sit down naked, the seeds might grow. A delightful getaway from the hustle, bustle and tricks. Oh, what a natural fix if you don't like to mix with the politics. One is you I have to resolve. If I could sort it out, all problems solved. Every time I plant corn and it start to shoot, some idiot keep fucking it out the root. Make country flowers in there, fuck it up. Make country produce in there, fuck it up. Country start to blossom. I don't know who or where they come from. Me blind neighbor say he saw a man resembling one of the politicians. I wasn't there, so I didn't see exactly who fucking up me country. Riding on me donkey, transportation bliss. Me fireside bubbling a goodie. I hear rioting in the gas crisis. Surrounded by wild animals. What a vicious pack. But none of them does launch an attack. None of them poison us like invert and sack. The hunt always on, I could say that much. And true, can switch it off like crime watch. My mission now is to put a stop to whosoever fucking me country up. Some say a man named Eric, George, Robbie and Patrick. Some say Capildeo, Paris, Kamla, Basteo. Old man Bedu said this ain't nothing new. They fucking up long before 1962. If Wattley was around, he might have tell we directly who fucking up me country.
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome to the Rebuttal. I'm glad that you can take some time out of your busy schedule to hang out with us this evening. And I know a lot of you are probably glued to your television because of what is happening in the United States of America. Now, I am not a natural-born United States citizen. I'm a naturalized citizen, and I cannot believe what I'm seeing at this point in time in the United States. The United States have held itself up as a beacon of democracy for years. It has enjoyed the peaceful transfer of power for centuries. And to see what is happening today is heartbreaking. These are the kind of things that the United States send armies into other countries to ensure or to uphold, as the case might be. But it appears right now that the United States is in need of an intervention, if not an invasion, to ensure that its democracy is preserved. It is quite a shameful thing to see, but not unexpected. It has not caught me by surprise because I have been watching the fella Donald Trump for a while, And I know that there was nothing good about that man. And I knew that once he got the taste of power, and once he recognized that he could do certain things with impunity because the president has immunity, I always had an eye on that fellow. I told some people the other day that there is a greater reason why Trump replaced the entire civilian hierarchy of the Pentagon, He couldn't do anything about the military arm of the Pentagon. But all the civilians that were there, he got rid of them. And that was because Trump really wanted to invoke the Insurrection Act. Trump wanted to do something to retain power. But it is a fool that doesn't recognize the limits of his power. How on God's green earth did Trump think he would get away with it? And in the alternative, what he has decided to do was what he did today. What he was hoping that the so-called Antifa and Black Lives Matter would come out today, and so that there would be a violent clash, and then that would be his invitation to invoke the Insurrection Act. But Black Lives Matter was smarter than him. Antifa, if there is such a thing, was smarter than him because they didn't come out. And now you have people out there, they are in fact now terrorists, and Trump has become a terrorist leader. And I have said that the one good thing that might come out of this is that no one named Trump would ever again become president of the United States. And those who supported him most, like Ted Cruz and Holly, they too who have designs on becoming president would not become president because they supported Trump. And Nikki Haley, who supports Trump and has not said anything up to this point, is not likely to become president of the United States. And so you wonder, how is it all this could take place? They invaded the Capitol. They were in Pelosi's office. They ransacked the place, and not one person got shot. I say fire the entire Capitol Police, because they're either negligent or they're part of this whole thing. They have had to bring police from outside. But if things were reversed, you well know there would be mayhem. People would be shot lying in the streets at the hands of the police. Things are not fair, but you see, it is what it is until it isn't. But like I said, I want to welcome you to the rebuttal this evening. We are not here to talk the issues that happen in the United States. We're here to talk about what's happening in our own federation in St. Kitts. And that's why we're here this evening, and I want to talk about the thing that has been bandied about in St. Kitts over the past couple of years. And that's the thing that caused the big brouhaha. The government increasing fees for certain services in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. Now don't get me wrong. The government has power, and it has the power to raise revenue. But the question is, what happened on this issue, and how did we get there? Now, it would appear that the government was surprised and it was blindsided by the opposition and protestation against the increases that the government proposed and approved. Now, in response, the government trotted out the permanent secretary of the National Security to provide an explanation, if not a defense. But it would have been better if Mr. Petty had refused. If he refused, what they're going to do? Send you home? Well, after all, you're already close to 15 years over the mandatory retirement age, so what if they send you home? But you should not have embarrassed yourself, Mr. Petty. You should not have gone public and try to explain away something that couldn't be explained. Now, the argument is that the list of fees which was scheduled to be increased represented a recommendation only and not determined or approved policy. Well, from time to time, I like to share with you so that we could all become better educated. And that is what I'm going to try to do. I'm going to use this issue as a teachable moment so that we can see if we could understand how government works and see when government is trying to blow smoke up our backsides. First, let us look at the administrative arm of the government. You ought to recall that the government, or what we call the public sector, is divided into three main branches: the judiciary or the courts, the legislature or parliament, and the executive, or what we commonly call cabinet. Now, we need focus only on the executive to understand the issue before us. Now, the executive, or what we call the cabinet, handles all administrative functions of the government. Because the cabinet is small, less than 15 persons, the cabinet or the executive cannot handle all the administrative functions that the government must carry out. And so the cabinet must, and it does, delegates most of its functions to subordinate entities, which we call the machinery of government. And the machinery of government comprises ministries. In the Constitution, they are called departments, but we refer to them as ministries of government. So at the top of the executive is the cabinet, and the cabinet comprises ministers, and then the cabinet breaks out into departments which we call ministries. Right? Now, ministries themselves are decomposed, are broken out into departments, divisions, and units. And if you want to break that down further, you could break down a unit into sections. And if you want to break down section further, you could break it down into teams and then into individuals. But it's a hierarchy, and it decomposes from the cabinet all the way down to individuals, if you wish. Now, to repeat, as I've just said, you have the cabinet, the ministry, you have departments, you have divisions, you have units, and you could break it down further if you wish. This illustrates a hierarchy. Each unit is stacked upon the other, or each unit is decomposed into another, right? And it's a hierarchy where authority bubbles up to the top. So the higher up you go into the hierarchy, the higher up you go in government, the more power is concentrated in the people that run those units. So a minister has more power than a PS, technically. A PS has more power than a head of a department. A head of a department has more power than a head of a division. Put another way, a PS has more power than a director. A director has more power than a manager. A manager has more power than a supervisor. You follow what I'm saying here? So the higher up you go, that's what we call a chain of command. The higher up you go, the more power you have. In our system of ministers of government, those ministers have the most power. Even though technically, to run a ministry, the PS has vast powers, because the PS is the signatory of the ministry, and the PS is the accounting and accountable officer. So technically he has vast power, but he could be directed to act by a minister. At the same time, a minister doesn't have signatory power in a ministry. But like I said, he could direct. And he often does direct. And I want you to remember that. PSs take their directions from ministers. Ministers take advice from PSs. I once read somewhere that the role of the PS, or the function, if you will, of the PS, is to advise the minister to the best of his ability. And if the minister disagrees, it is the duty of the PS to implement the directive of the minister as if that directive was his own. And so I think you are realizing that ministers have power to direct, PSs to act. So the cabinet is a powerful arm of government because ministers reside in the cabinet. Now, what is the main power of the cabinet of ministers? Like I said, it is to direct. The cabinet has the power to make decisions via strategies, policies, rules, regulations, what have you, right? So protocols usually emanate from cabinet. It also has the power to ensure that decisions made and approved by cabinet are carried out by subordinate entities like ministries, department, divisions, and unit. In other words, decisions reached in cabinet has the power to ensure that this decision is passed on to the PS and that the PS carries out that directive. I want you to bear with me, follow what I'm saying. So to reiterate, the prime purpose of the cabinet is as a policy or decision maker. So what is the responsibility of the ministries and departments? Ministries and departments are policy proposers and policy recommenders and policy implementers or managers. So ministries, through their permanent secretaries, propose or recommend policies to ministers or cabinet. Cabinet pontificates, discuss those policies and approve them or disapprove them. But if they approve them, then they pass that decision, that approved decision, back to the PSs for implementation. And Cabinet, through the Cabinet Secretary, ensures that those decisions are carried out in a timely manner and carried out efficiently and effectively. So, let us look at the scenario we are faced with the fee increase. Now, bear in mind, the country has a cash flow problem. Money not there. Money not run. The government, of course, has the ability to borrow. And I have to think that they still have some of the money that was left by Douglas in the bank accounts. I can't imagine that they use up all of that. So I got to believe they got some of that. So technically, while the cash isn't flowing in because businesses are hurting and people are not working and so forth, right? Government got money. They got to have money. But the money now run. And so it has a cash flow problem. The government, and you've heard me say this time and again, is devoid of ideas. They ain't got no load of thinkers in government. They're devoid of ideas to generate economic growth and revenue. It's easier to generate revenue than it is to generate economic growth. And so the first instinct of the government is to try and raise revenue rather than stimulate economic growth. Revenue will take a further hit in 2021. Now, when government wants money, it can do a couple of things. One, it can raise taxes. When Douglas may want money, he increased VAT, right? He increased VAT because he wanted to be able to pay down the debt from near 200% of GDP to where it was when he left at 70 or so percent. Now I have to assume that once he got down further, that Douglas was going to bring down the VAT. However, government changed. I know Labour had proposed that they would decrease or reduce the VAT, which I have to assume that was the idea. Because if you're not needing all that revenue, then there's no need to take it from the people. Right? So that's one way to get revenue, by raising taxes. Another way to raise revenue is to raise tariffs, like at the port. That'll come. Another way to raise revenue is to raise fees. And that is the one that we're dealing with tonight. That is what they try to do. They try to raise fees. They got more fees they could raise, but that's the one they try to raise some as related to national security. Another way for government to have more revenue is to cut spending. It sounds counterintuitive. But if you cut spending, it means you get to keep more of what you raised. Right? So it has the effect of raising revenue. Government also can raise revenue by borrowing money, taking out loans. And government could raise revenue by begging. seeking grants. That's free money. We don't beg the Taiwanese a lot, right? That is another way to raise revenue. But the one that we are concerned with right now is the fees, the increase in fees. But all of these decisions, all of these actions to raise revenue are policy decisions. And these policy decisions are made by ministers in cabinet. So how does it work? How does it work? There are two basic ways that this happens. One, the minister in his infinite wisdom may direct the PS to propose a policy or policies on a particular matter or to address a specific issue. So the minister could direct the PS to check out something and make a proposal. Or the PS in his own infinite wisdom, studying the situation and conducting a situation analysis, he may recognize the need for a policy to be considered by ministers in cabinet. And he could propose policy changes of his own volition to address a particular matter or issues. So the minister could decide that the PS should make a proposal, or the PS could make a proposal. But the proposal goes to the minister. The proposal goes to the minister. Here, the issue that was demanding change was the lack of revenue. And the proposal was to increase the fees. Who writes the proposal? The PS of National Security is the one who wrote the proposal. It could have been the PS of Finance or the Financial Secretary. But it would be the PS of National Security who gave the proposal for the increases to the minister to take to cabinet. So the PS would write what we call a cabinet submission. And a cabinet submission in its simplest form is a proposal made to cabinet to consider and approve a policy. The policy recommendation or the proposal under consideration would be submitted to cabinet via the relevant minister. In this case, that minister would be the Minister of National Security, and that's Dr. Timothy Harris. Now, there is proof that the cabinet discussed the submission. The submission was made. We know that. And the cabinet discussed it. Because if you look at the document that is circulating, you would see the title of the document is Amended List of Recommendations from the Ministry of National Security for Increased Revenue Collection for the 2021 Budget Estimate. So there were discussions going around. And it says further, it says, as per Cabinet Submission number 208-2020, discussed and amended Monday 16 November 2020. Cabinet took up this matter. Cabinet discussed it. Cabinet made changes, amendments, made changes. You understand? Which means that cabinet could do one of two things. Cabinet could say, okay, make the changes that we recommend, right? And then you could implement. Or cabinet would say, make the changes, send it back to us, let us approve it definitively, and then we move to implementation. I don't know which one they did. All I know, they did one. So this issue was prepared for a submission first to the budget estimate. So they would have heard about it in the budget discussions. The ministers heard about it the first time at these discussions. At that time, the Minister of National Security would have been fully aware of it. So he can't say he didn't know. The PS would not present to estimates discussions unless he first discussed it with the minister. And the minister, as we agreed, is Dr. Harris. Then the PS would have been instructed to convert what they discussed, what they proposed in the discussion to cabinet via cabinet submission. The cabinet submission was discussed in cabinet as well. The document that we all saw indicated that the cabinet received the submission and discussed it and made changes. Did cabinet recommend changes but not approve the changes at that time? That's possible. But it would have reconsidered and it would have approved it. Now, if the proposal was sent back to the ministry for updating, it would go from the cabinet secretary to the PS, then back to the cabinet secretary. The cabinet secretary would put it into the minister's folder so they can prepare for the discussion in cabinet. But they had already discussed it, so it ain't gonna take no time. If they bring it up in cabinet, bim, boom, 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 take a vote and you approve, right? Because they had already discussed it and they had already made the recommendation for changes. So once they see it again, they know, hey, you don't need to go over this. Now we move forward. Bing, boom, boom. Mr. Cabinet Secretary or Miss Cabinet Secretary, I don't know who it is right now, you go ahead and make sure that national security is informed via the PS, and we need this thing implemented first thing in the new year. So the approval was made. Nobody can convince me otherwise. The approval was either explicit or implicit, but it was made. It was made. I believe the document was approved. I believe the document was approved. Now, let's look at the issue of the document being leaked. Where would the leak have taken place? Who would leak the document? Well, let me tell you, the people who are in a position to leak that document would be the Prime Minister, the Prime Minister's Secretary, because she may have had to type something, or she would have had to send it to the PS and she would see. The PS of National Security was in a position to leak. His secretary was in a position to leak. The Cabinet Secretary was in a position to leak. The Secretary to the Cabinet Secretary was in a position to leak. And any member of Cabinet, any minister was in a position to leak this document. If any of them there leak the document, who cares? Who cares? Because the issue now is, how did you get to the implementation of the policy? Because people said they went, go renew their gun license, and you charge them $1,000 instead of the $300 plus that they used to pay. So that means that the policy was implemented. At that level, they don't have the right to implement the policy. In fact, they wouldn't have access to the policy unless somebody sent it to them. So somebody must have sent it to the people who processed the gun license and charged the $1,000. Who told them? And the fact that they knew, or the fact that they were told, or the fact that they saw the document in an official capacity so that they could implement it, it meant that this approval was given, it was delegated, and it was carried out. But you see, because of the big brouhaha and the uproar, you shame and you want to say, let's blame it on somebody. You see, sometimes you got to stand up and say, look, this is the policy of the government, and we stand by the policy. Right or wrong, or rightly or wrongly. But this is your policy. That policy was properly delegated and implemented. I don't care what none of I say, because nobody, no junior level officer was going to have access to it, and no junior officer was going to operationalize it unless it came from higher up. On that note, I'm going to stop. And then I'm going to come back and talk a little bit more.
I love being in the latest style and dress fine, or should I say classy. That is why I shop at First Class next to the taxi stand at Port Sante for fine gold and silver jewelry in precious, semi-precious and colored stones, diamond and crystal watches, and the hottest handbags and wallets. And when I want to buy a gift for someone, that's easy too. I just ask them to make me a gift basket, and First Class has the best prices at Port Sante. So no matter what the occasion, come on into First Class and leave happy, knowing you've gotten the best deal for your money. It's First Class at Port Sante, where quality, low prices, and top-notch service are second to none.
Spread the word. New and exclusive every Sunday from 6 a.m. to 1 p.m. It's the Gospel Cafe with Carl D. Springate on KYSS FM 102.5. Tune in and connect with the Holy Ghost Connection with live interviews, Christian news, what's hot and what's not, in the now. Birthdays and anniversary shout-outs available, Bible Jeopardy, Beyond the Pulpit, and positive entertainment and ministry. Testimonies and the pastor's moment with Spread the Word. So tune in as we drop the latest gospel hits, 100% black. It's the Carl D. Springate Gospel Cafe, Sundays from 6 a.m. to 1 p.m. on KYSSFMonline.com and 102.5 FM. And be blessed like that.
One fashion accessories for really low prices. Check silver and cents. Check silver and cents. Beauty supplies and weave, genuine fragrances. Check silver and cents. Check silver and cents. Handbags so beautiful, your friends will envy how you look. With perfume to smell just right, you'll feel like you're in paradise. Watches, silver jewelry, and hair accessories. Check silver and cents in the Amri Mall on Deon Street.
Ready or not, you're my clothes, can't hide. Gonna find you and make you want me.
Ain't nobody tell me nothing. Trying to tell me nothing.
I'm Shaniel Francis. Kyssfm 102.5 is proud to announce its brand new morning show, Backchat, the only place to hear the hottest music.
I'm local.
Check me area code, direct me area code. Anywhere me go, you know me touch the
To international.
Ay, I go shopping, want it then I cop it. Ay, yeah, bitches popping, I do what they copy.
And have you informed with a range of topics.
So on Mondays to Fridays, tune in at 8 to 11.
You won't want to miss the vibes on
Backchat.
Ready or not, you're my clothes.
fly high up to the sky. I'm living in the mountains. Everybody knows the soil so fertile. If a man sit down naked, the seeds might grow. A delightful getaway from the hustle, bustle and tricks. Oh, what a natural fix if you don't like to mix with the politics. One issue I have to resolve. If I could sort it out, all problems solved. Every time I plant corn and it start to shoot, some idiot keep talking it out the root. Make country flowers in it, farm it up. Make country produce in it, farm it up. Country start to blossom. I don't know who or where they come from. Me blind neighbor say he saw a man resembling one of the politicians. I wasn't there, so I didn't see exactly who talking up me country.
So welcome back to the Rebuttal. I'm Douglas Wattley, your host. We should look at the ramification of the decision to increase fees at this point in time, you know. This is not the time when you increase fees on people, because we are going through a guava crop, you know. People ain't got money and the rest of them ain't working. And so why would you try to extract money from people who ain't got none? It ain't even like you helping them out by paying them the severance that you got for them. And so it makes no sense that you try right now to take money out of the economy. What you should be doing is you should be trying your best to increase consumption, putting money in people's pocket so that they could spend it. That would turn over the engines of the economy. But if you keep taking out money and put it in the hands or pockets of the government, and the government in turn would not spend it, the government has reduced its own consumption, how are you going to grow the economy? So the people ain't spending, in other words, they're not consuming. The government ain't spending, in other words, it's not consuming. Yet consumption make up about 70% of the economy. Well, how are you going to grow the economy? It makes no sense. And so you go, and if a fella has a security business, and he has 40 employees, and he has 40 revolvers, 40 guns. All of a sudden, he got to find $40,000 to license them gun there. You ain't even give the man a warning. And all you see is money coming in. And I would even go so far as to say all them security companies that are affiliated with siblings of a certain minister of government, you probably would exempt them or give them payment plans and all that. You ain't gonna burden them, or you may give them an increase to cover that payment because you make the decisions. Boy, we in bad shape in the country. But what we vote for, and since we vote for it, we got to take the licks. Now let me ask you all, did you all hear that a certain sibling of Timo formed a business with a certain member of PLP for the sole purpose of installing traffic lights in St. Kitts? Are you hear that? Lord, are you find out if it's true for me now? And let me know. Because that is crazy, you know. that's acting on insider information, and you didn't send it out for procurement, you didn't send it out for bids, all them things then are right. But you're going quick to remind me that me thing, that me vote for it, even though me no vote for it, you know. Now, let me ask you all another question. Did you all hear that the guy who Timo prefers to run in number 2 for PLP got a $2.5 million contract for a certain project? Y'all heard that? The man using government money to enrich these guys and then use them in the political arena. No? There's another fella who run in a certain constituency way down in the country who got some serious government contracts before he ran for government. Why after 6 months Eugene Hamilton ain't installed an NHC board? After 6 months, you can't name some people to a board. Some people could have owned a little change over the period of time. People don't go on board to earn a little change. Who couldn't name somebody? And by the way, where is the NHC manager? I hope that just because I say in one of my programs that the NHC manager is a jailbird who went jail for money issues on a previous job, I hope that ain't the reason you ain't named the person to be NHC, you know, to be NHC manager. I was just saying, since when I study me. Now, is it also true that more than 700 people in Nevis applied for severance, but only about 100 of them received all or a portion of the severance up to this point? Pay the people. You're stealing from the people. Pay the people the money. Borrow it if you have to. You have no right to deny them the money. And look at what you have done. Why should government allocate and guarantee $31 million to pay for peace? People whose only job is not to kill one another. Why would you guarantee money for them, but you're not paying people the severance pay? People, you got to remember this for the next election. You got to remember. I want to know also if you all plan to vote in the next election for a government that will increase the Social Security retirement age from 62 to 65 before the next election. All are we who going to be affected? You can't vote for that. If you're going to be affected, you can't vote for that. I'll remind you, if I'm alive, about that come the next election. That don't make no sense. That don't make no sense. I am telling you right now, St. Kitts is in a precarious position. Next week I'm going to explain to you all how a little bit more about government revenue. We're going to talk a little bit about how corporate income tax and them things work and why they are going to more than likely be down this year. We're going to talk about that. Yeah. I don't know that I want to say anything else this evening. I think I've covered all the corners that I wanted to cover for tonight. And we're going to talk again next week. So I still want to know some things, and the only person who could tell me is Timo. We want to know. And so we're going to close out with the third runner from the Calypso competition, Big Lights, singing We Want to Know. Because there's a lot of things we want to know. Ladies and gentlemen, have a pleasant evening, and you have a great 2021. And I'll talk to you again next week, God willing. Take care, y'all.
Warm it up. Good evening, people. This is your defender, your lawyer. Share the life. I don't want this. I look like Barkley. What? Just one Facebook live session served to capture the nation's attention. This surprise reaction points to a thirst for information. Whenever there is rumor, that one has to counter. Balance and truth always matter. When it's your reputation that's brought into question, silence is never an option. So we want to know, Timo, we want to know why you continue to undermine Maxu. We want to know, Timo, we want to know, are you subtly telling neighbors they got to go? Tell us why should they accept your ongoing disrespect? Always interfering without informing. You well know that Mark is in charge, but you think you're larger than large. How did you get so, Mr. Timo? We want to know. How did you get so, Mr. Timo? We want to know. Hey! This is the People's Court. Your Honor, we want to know about those people on social media getting all kind of money. What? Kyssfm! You use your bully pulpit, trying your very best to discredit, calling into question many a person's reputation. Honest men and women have been made to defend their good reputation, while on social media, persons of dishonor spreading lies and propaganda. So we want to know, Timo, we want to know why you, Wallace and Andre does lie so. We want to know, Timo, we want to know where exactly did the campaign money go? Your threat of legal action was just a mere distraction. Meanwhile, hoping that we will forget about the money. But when we see your portfolio of property start to overflow, how did you get so, Mr. Timo? We want to know. How did you get so, Mr. Timo? We want to know. Hey, sir! See the Timo dance? The Timo dance. The Timo dance. Your Honor, history would not be kind to Mr. Timo. Very ungrateful. What? Listen up, you know. When one looks at your history, if they have issues with loyalty, because while in opposition, where did you turn for inspiration? I could well remember Franklin Grant and Jean Conda, making sure you were looked after. But now you came to power, you have nothing to offer. Now it's just you, family and brother. So we want to know, Timo, we want to know, how on earth you turn ungrateful soul. We want to know, Timo, we want to know. Not even Dwyer you consult anymore. Suddenly you don't like Sam, no respect, you don't give a damn. Ever since you arrived, you don't care if he survive. Forgetting those who help you up, that's the way ingratitude stop. How did you get so, Mr. Timo? We want to know. How did you get so, Mr. Timo? We want to know. Hey, sir! Mr. Your Honor, we have to look at the government coffers on misappropriation of funds and servants. Oh. Why? Hey! Listen up. I have one simple question. Please, Timo, can you tell the nation about your severance money? Is it being managed responsibly? Because I hear in a rumor about a certain fella and a former labor commissioner. Is it true that the quick action by Sharon Rattan saved the country 1.2 million? So we want to know, Timo, we want to know, why you protecting Andre Libert so? We want to know, Timo, we want to know, just how far are you willing to go to shield him from any attack? Have you pledged to have his back? Are you just protecting or saving your skin? Some of the things I hear you would do, Mr. Pam, I hope that is true. How did you get so, Mr. Timo? We want to know. How did you get so, Mr. Timo? We want to know. Hey, sir! Final night, extra verse. Come on, you know me. Hey! Listen up, listen up. Whoop up, whoop up. I hear Timo wants a clue. Not because he have the best calypso, but he between a rock and a hard place. Is Sacro willing to shake his ways? What is this about auditor? But we all know better. Same old tactics they use when with labor. But tonight they have a problem. I causing mayhem. Tonight I'm banging all of them. So we want to know, Timo, we want to know, why you interfere within our calypso. We want to know, Timo, we want to know, how much money did you pay Bad Boy Polo? I hear you paid for printing shirts because on Mark you want to spread dirt. Petty as usual, you're so comical. But tonight when I win this crown, there'll be another sheriff in town. Then we gon' let them know, Timo, how you get so. the sheriff gonna let them know, Mr. Timo, how you get so. Thank you, good night. Kaiso, that is Kaiso. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Yay! Whoop, 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 whoop. I love it, I love it. Yay! Hey! Kaiso.